Hi, it's Neil Sean here on Your Entertainment News with a true showbiz legend. My guest today is the wonderful, the gorgeous, the very talented Miss Thelma Ruby. Remember though, Thelma?
That's right, Neil. If you miss it, you miss out.
Don't miss Thelma today on Your Entertainment News. They were fabulous. So Thelma, thank you so much for coming in today. Real pleasure. Now, you're doing your one-woman show at the King's Head Theatre in London. What's it about and how did the idea come around for you?
Well, I think I'm a bit crazy doing it at the age of 91, don't you? But
No.
I couldn't resist the challenge. It came about many years ago. I was on a trip to Morocco with a group. And they said, oh, they're having a last night party. Can you do something at the party? Because you're an actress. I said, well, no, when I was young, I used to do cabaret. I haven't done anything recently. And they said, oh, please. So I just put together something. And they liked it so much that several people phoned and asked me to come and give this lecture to their group. And then I have great friends in India who have a theatre. And they said, can you come and do it for us here in... I said, well, why would you? Because the one-woman show is the story of my life with, you know, just the story of my life. Yeah. Why would you be interested in India with a Yorkshire girl talking about a theatrical life? Oh, we'd love it. Well, as it was in a theatre, I thought, well, I'll add some songs from shows I've been in. Yeah. And I said, can you find a piano and a pianist who can play Western? So they said no such thing here in Ahmedabad, where they were in India. And so somebody suggested, and then I had my pianist here. They said, you know, pop stars have recorded backing. Why don't you have a recorded piano for the songs? Which I did. And it went so well that when I did it in India, a critic came round afterwards and said, that was wonderful. Where's the piano? He was looking for the piano in the wings. So since then, I've done it with songs, and I've done it for quite a while, but I haven't done it for a long time. So it's quite a challenge to do it now. But
you have had an amazing career. And I mean, you mentioned you touched on cabaret. I saw a great picture of you on the net of you in like a lineup with a bunch of dancing girls, and I think you're all pointing. Maybe Tommy Steele's in the picture as well.
Tyrone Power.
Is it Tyrone Power? Yeah. Now, what was he like? I mean, because I mean, Tyrone Power was like, it's hard to imagine in today's time, but he was like Brad Pitt and everybody else rolled into one, wasn't he?
Oh, he was.
Was he good? Now, I'm thinking you liked him, Thelma.
Well, actually, we had a little romance.
Oh.
Which started with the lineup. All people who were in shows in the West End, the girls, all famous people, were the chorus. Yeah. And he sang, pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? We go, woo, woo, at the back. One day, he was singing the song, and he said, instead of singing, there's gonna be a certain party at the station, he sang, there's gonna be a certain party at the wedding. And the director said, Ty, that was fine until you came to the wedding. He said, that's life.
So he was a nice man then.
Oh, he
and
was wonderful.
Where did you, so if you had a couple of dates, where did he take, where does a Hollywood star take
it was
somebody?
more than a couple of dates.
Oh, Thelma, please, it's too hot in here.
I'm not going to talk about it to you.
But what I find interesting though is when Hollywood stars came over in that period, it was a big thing, wasn't it?
Yes, he was making a film here, and he was touring in Devil's Desire, but he wanted to be known as a serious actor, but because he was so handsome, he usually got the same sort of parts on films, you know, just to look gorgeous. But he really was a good actor, and he was a gentleman inside and out. He was such a lovely man. He really was.
Because I read this great story that Lana Turner liked him so much. I don't know how true this is, but she decided that she was going to marry him. I mean, Lana married quite a few times, obviously, like 8 or 9 times. Yeah. But she had the towels and the bedding monogrammed in advance, which is, isn't that fabulous? Like, you know, and then he saw it apparently and,
oh, how funny.
I'm off, you know.
Oh, how funny.
But she was definitely sort of keen on
Oh.
So you think, well, that was a bit of a shock, Thelma. So
He said he was unmarried when I knew him, and he said, I'm never getting married to an actress again. It just doesn't work. So he was on tour in the South, and a lady came to his dressing room, and smack was romance, and he married her. And he went back to Hollywood with his new bride, and his friends made a party for him to celebrate the wedding, and he had a boat. I think it was called the Black Swan. And somebody gave him a present of towels, like a dozen bath towels, a dozen, all embroidered with the Black Swan. And this new bride opened them and said, more towels. He died soon after.
People were like that then, though, weren't they? You know, it was a different time, as you say. It's like to have people like that. It's hard to imagine now because we see celebrity a lot more now. It's more accessible.
Yes.
But when big stars came over like that, it's incredible. You know, I mean, I think when you look at, say, people like Tyrone Power and all those bigger names like Mae West coming to London, people like that. Must have been a very exciting period for you as an actress to be amongst that. It was
probably the most glamorous time of my life because he introduced me to Van Johnson and Jack Hawkins and a lot of other big stars, and it was a wonderful time.
And do you have pictures with these people? Because most people didn't take pictures then, did they?
Not really. There was a member of our company got married because I was in the show for amusement only at the time. And one of the company got married and he came with me to the wedding. And I've got a picture of me arriving with him at the wedding. I think that it's in my book. I've got a book, you know, about my life.
You should always have a book.
Yes, a joint autobiography of my late husband and me. And there's a picture in there of me arriving at this wedding. Oh, it was appalling, you know, because it was, I think, a Saturday morning, the wedding. And when it came to the matinee, we were all tight, you know, we were all... And there was someone who ran a theatre, came round afterwards and said, I will never employ anybody that's in this show. It was so dreadful.
It's brilliant, though, isn't it? You know, it's like the most glamorous thing on the one hand, but then getting told off on the other bit. It's not very, you know. And we mentioned briefly about, we were just talking briefly before about H.M. Tennant and Binky Beaumont, people like that. Yeah. These were like the precursors to the Cameron Mackintosh and Andrew Lloyd Webbers. They were the big, big names.
That's right.
So what was Binky Beaumont like? Because apparently he had an office at the top of the Globe Theatre.
Yes, there was a tiny lift that was terrifying to go up to his... because only you could just squash into this lift to get to the offices. I didn't really know him, you know, because I was in a show. He wasn't around that often, I must admit, so I can't
But was he like a feared person within the company?
Oh, yes.
You know, because it's hard, isn't it? They were just massive, like the Bernadette.
His word was law, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
And when you were in a show for somebody like him, would that have been, did that help for next jobs, as it were? You know, because people thought, well, you were in a Beaumont show and...
Not the management, no. No, I mean, what your performance was, or maybe the director might affect, or who you were working with, but I don't think the management helped you on to the next job, no.
So you came from Leeds, you're a Yorkshire girl, born and bred.
Yes.
How long did you live in Leeds for, and how did you sort of move from there and get into this glamorous world? How did that path go?
Well, my father was a dentist in Leeds, but my mother had a glorious singing voice. And before I was born, she had a career as a child performer. And even when we were young, she didn't want to leave Leeds and leave us as young children, but she would perform with the amateur companies in Leeds and Bradford. And all my early memories of going to the theatre were to see my beautiful mother at the Grand or one of the theatres in Leeds. And I wanted to be an actress, but I was terribly shy as a child, believe it or not.
Oh, I can't.
And so I never told anybody. And then when I was 14, the war broke out. And I was evacuated to New York.
Wow.
So
that's nowhere grim for you then.
I had a wonderful war. I had 4 years in New York.
And just at that age, of course, where you're developing and
Yes.
you know, looking at what you want to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I had the good luck to win a scholarship to a college there that had a wonderful theatre arts department. And that was the first time I'd actually come out to say, I want to be an actress. And that's where I trained. And when I came back, I went straight, I had to. I was called up when I came back because the war was still on. And I went into ENSA, entertaining the troops.
Yeah.
So that's how I left Leeds. I never really went back to live in Leeds after 14, but I went to the Leeds Girls High School until then.
So have you ever been back now, you know, in later years? Have you ever
While
been-
my parents still lived there, I went back, and then I've worked there a few times. I've been at the Playhouse and on tour
Yeah.
at the Grand. But recently I haven't been back, I'm afraid.
No, but
Yes.
the journey is fascinating, isn't it? Because we never know where we're going to end up.
That's right.
And I think for you, you know, like when you say, "Oh, I was really shy," when you said to your mum and dad, "I want to be an actress," did they then think, "Oh no," or was because
I
your mum
never
was
said
it?
it.
Oh, so they just like accepted it and then
No.
Oh,
As I say, if there hadn't been a war, I don't think I would have had the courage to be an actress.
do you think that just freed you in a sense because
Well, it
people were doing
did.
things what they wanted to do?
Well,
rather
as
than-
you say, I was just at the age when I went to this college that I could say it, and it was lucky that this college happened to have a wonderful theatre department.
Yeah.
But if I'd stayed in England,
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? You
I
never really
wouldn't-
know.
I wouldn't have
So
done.
what was your big break then when you came back into England and thought, you know, what was the first big show that you got into and thought, this
Well,
I might
first
be able to
of
make
all-
a career, you know what I mean?
well, first of all, I was in ENSA entertaining troops in hospitals all over the country.
Wow.
And then I got a job with Evelyn Leigh in a musical called The Three Waltzes. It had been in London. This was the post-London tour. I had a part with one line. So that wasn't really my breakthrough.
But Evelyn Leigh, again, a huge star in
was a
time.
huge star and a lovely person to work with. And then I had bits and pieces jobs. I was an extra in a film and, you know. And my first acting job was in repertory, twice nightly, weekly repertory.
And that was for a big company? Or
No, Harry Hanson's Court Players.
But they were famous though, weren't they, Harry Hanson's Court Players?
Yes.
They toured everywhere.
You remember the name?
Well, I don't remember. Don't say I remember them. But yeah, because Mum and Dad
Yes.
told me everything about these people.
Yes.
And they were like, it's hard to imagine a big famous company.
Yes.
To get into that company.
Yes.
Again, an
Yes.
achievement.
It was
you know?
lovely. I was leading lady. It was weekly, twice nightly.
And then were you learning another play
Each
for the
week,
next week?
yes. Twice nightly.
So did that give you then really the ability, you know, because I often thought that when they said that, as you were doing one play, you're learning next week's
Yes.
new play.
Yes.
But you must expand your mind to be able to adapt lines, pick up things very quickly. Or is it because you're young? You know what I mean?
Well, one thing is because you're young, but another is it did teach you to not only learn quickly, but to jump in when things go wrong, as they often did. But, and I say this in my show, it wasn't a good thing because my dressing room I shared with an elderly character actress who said, "Darling, don't worry, you've only got 3 performances. Just look at the script and say, is it number 1 out the bag, number 2 out the bag, number..." But I had been taught at drama school to act, to try and create and inhabit a character, and you can't do that in a week.
Yeah.
I guess my first big chance was when I was in Terence Rattigan's Harlequinade and the Browning version at the Phoenix, and I had a lovely part in Harlequinade, and that was my first good part in the West End.
Oh, right.
That's back in
Just wait there.
1948.
Just wait there. Oh, don't worry about that. There's something rattling that's annoying me. What is it? Your battery?
Yeah, it's my HME. I might switch out the headset.
Yeah, because it's picking up for me. We'll carry on, don't worry. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's TV. So you're at the Phoenix Theatre, big
Yes.
play.
Yes.
And then again, I mean, Terence Rattigan, a huge name in
Oh,
just
it
in
was
that
so
era.
wonderful working with him.
Yeah.
He was there, of course, the whole time. I had Eric Portman was the leading man, and Peter Glenville was the director, and Terence Rattigan the author.
Wow.
And
And what was he? What was Terence like? Was he? I saw
he
a play about
was
him quite
lovely.
debonair and
yes,
yeah,
debonair, very handsome
yeah.
and very charming.
Yeah.
He was lovely. He was
It's lovely that because you people like yourself who've worked with people that, you know, they're so rare to find out because we only
Yes.
have images of what people write in books. and they're never always that glowing about them. And people always say, "Oh, they were a terrible boss," and then when you meet somebody who says, "No, they were just great," you know, it was.
I've often gone into a show with some star, perhaps, that everyone says, "Oh, they're a murder, they're difficult to work." I've always taken as I find, and I usually find that they're not awful at all. They're usually very nice indeed.
Maybe you've just got that personality where they like you, though. You know what I mean? I'm the same. I always think, well, they're all nice to me, so you take as you find, don't you? You know.
There was one in the playbill. There was a big fat man called Campbell Cotts, and he turned out to be the premier peer in Scotland. He was from that family, and he'd been a religious man, and he'd been private secretary to Stafford Cripps or something like that, and he'd suddenly decided he wanted to be an actor. And he had to, there were 2 short plays in this. I was in the second one, Harlequinade. The first one was the Browning version, which was the perfect play from the first reading.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant.
Brilliant, but he never changed a word during rehearsal. Wow. It was just amazing. Anyhow, he had to do a Yorkshire accent in the second one. He said, "Ruby, dear, do you think you could help me with my Yorkshire?" And I said, "Yes, certainly." So whenever we had time off, we'd go off to a corner and I'd try and help him with his Yorkshire accent. And on the first night, he gave me a beautiful ruby glass thing to ruby with thanks for my Yorkshire. And in the Browning version, do you remember the story? It's about a teacher with a boy.
Yeah.
And there's one scene where he has to go on, he's playing the headmaster, and Eric Portman is with the boy. And he has to go on, and his first line is, "Ah, Crocker Harris, I've caught you in." And one of the cast said to him, "Campbell, wouldn't it be awful if you went on and said, 'Ah, Crocker Harris, I've caught you out'?" And he got in such a state about it, he used to go on his knees every night and pray that he wouldn't say it. And he left the show, he couldn't take it anymore.
It's funny though, isn't it, how somebody can say that to you? It's true that though, isn't it? Like, you know, if they say, "Oh, I don't know how you remember that person's name."
Yes.
The minute they say that, you can't remember it. You know, you think, "No, don't say anything to me, it's a jinx, it's a jinx." So you went through the 50s. I noticed that you did a pantomime as well, Sleeping Beauty.
2.
Did 2?
Well, I had 2 big ones at the Palladium.
Yeah.
And then Manchester as well.
So
yes.
what were you had in one of them? I read was Now Sir Bruce, Charlie Drake, and Norman Wisdom. Were they all in one panto?
No.
So
the first one, the Sleeping Beauty, where Charlie Drake was the king and I was the queen. And starting out in their career were Bruce Forsyth and Edmund Hockridge, and I forget 2 other big stars too that became big afterwards. And then the second one was Turn Again Whittington, Dick Whittington, with Norman Wisdom was Dick Whittington.
And what was he like? Because I met him. We became really good friends, actually.
Yeah.
He drove you insane, but he was lovely.
He was a dear,
just
wasn't
lovely,
he?
You know.
But I found at that time he had no small talk. You couldn't just chat to him. He'd nothing to say to you.
Focused on that.
I remember that during the show I was doing cabaret at Clement Freud's club in the Royal Court. And I went on after the show and I stood next to him at the curtain call and he was able to say, "Going on to work, are you, dear?"
And that was kind of
it.
I remember
He was very talented.
Incredible.
Yes.
I remember the first time I ever went to interview him was in this big hotel in London, and you're sitting there really nervously, you know.
Yes.
Oh gosh, you know. He came through this door, this revolved door, and tripped up, and I thought, "Oh my God!"
He was doing an act.
Yeah, I didn't read. You know, when you don't get it, do you? You think, "Oh, if he dies in here," you know what I mean? It's like it's all my fault, you know. And but he was absolutely divine, and he knew every technical bit about his own. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yes, he did.
And there was no, you know, chance thing. I mean, I also met Charlie Drake. What were your thoughts on Charlie? I thought he was quite a feisty guy. You know, a little bit dangerous.
Hello, my darling.
Well, he was brilliant at the time.
He was sweet. He was a dear. And I got on very well with him, as I say. He was lovely. And so was Bruce. And then I did it again with Bruce the following year in Manchester. We did the pantomime. a season up there, and he was lovely. And I met him at a spa about 3 or 4 years ago, and he was so pleased to see me. And he was so sweet, and we had a champagne dinner together, and it was lovely. He's lovely.
It's lovely that, isn't it, when you see
lovely.
somebody again?
Yeah,
because,
after many, many
yeah,
years.
Yeah,
yes.
and because of course you watch him on
Yes,
Strictly, and
that's right.
I think marvellous.
That's
you know.
right, yes.
I think it's a shame he left because he held the show together.
Yes.
I felt, like he
Yes.
wanted a dancer, a pro, and he could do it.
Yes.
I have to touch also on you were in a very iconic film, but quite a saucy film, I think, of the time, Room at the Top.
Was that saucy? What do you mean by saucy?
I think it's not like, what's the word? I suppose controversial of the time, because it's about a man who's dating a young girl, but also got affections for an older woman.
That's true,
and
yes.
when you think about 1959, it was quite prim.
Yes.
And I think, when I read the sort of synopsis stuff and everything, he said a lot of people found this quite challenging because I don't think anybody had done, this was like the kitchen sink drama stuff, wasn't it, of black and whites.
That's true,
Saturday night,
and a
Sunday
man
mornings.
fighting to get to the top of
Yeah,
the tree.
when you were making that, did anybody, including yourself, have any idea it would become such a pivotal film in cinema history?
Well, I didn't realise it. I had a lovely experience with that. There was a casting lady, and I don't remember her name, she was very famous, and I went to see her, and she phoned me up before the film, and she said, we're going to have a read-through at the studios, and Simone Signoret can't get over from France for it. Would you go and read her part?
How nice.
And they sent a car for me. And they were all there, Lawrence Harvey and all the lot of them were doing the reading, and I did Simone Signoret's part at the read-through. And then she phoned me and said, well, we've got to find you a part as you've done that. And I was the girl in the office who was chatting to him when he heard in the background the news that she'd been killed,
Wow.
And
what was she like as an actress, though? Because
well, I
thought
didn't have anything to do with her. I didn't have any
But
scenes
she was a
with
huge
her.
star, wasn't she,
Yes.
at the time? It's like, again,
Yes.
So
Yes.
did you get excited by working with her? Because you've had such a varied career, but did you get starstruck?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Who made you starstruck apart from Tyrone Power, for obvious reasons?
Well, that was off stage. And I was struck. Oh, well, I loved working with all the famous people I've worked with. Judi Dench was, she's just wonderful.
Lovely lady.
She's wonderful.
Very
to
shy,
work with.
though.
Well, she's just, but not
Probably not with you,
in a
but,
company, because she loves everybody, all the backstage, everybody she's friendly with and good to. And she's marvellous to work with.
Yeah.
And Orson Welles, he was quite a character to work with.
Then again, now Orson Welles,
Yes.
you see, when I was a child, he used to be on chat shows. He was quite a big man at this time.
Yes.
But you don't realise, again, what an iconic person and groundbreaker he was as a person, because I think it's a very strange thing. I don't know if you agree, when they're big like that and they marry somebody very famous, like he married Rita Hayworth, I think that can eclipse what they do because it's about power, isn't it, in couples and Hollywood and all that sort of stuff. What were your memories of him when you first met him, and what was he like as a normal person, as it were?
Well, he was, of course, I was very in awe of him.
Yeah.
And when you say you forget what he's done, I don't think Citizen Kane will ever fail to be, a most famous film of what he achieved there.
Yeah.
And I was so thrilled. It was my first Shakespeare. And that's why he cast me. He was glad to have someone who'd never done Shakespeare. He thought I'd bring something fresh to the part. I was Mistress Quickly to his Falstaff. And he was wonderful, but he was naughty. And I tell the story in my show that he was stumbling around with the book until we opened. We never had a run-through. We never saw him in costume. We never saw him without the book in his hand. And on the first night, he was brilliant. He went on, and the rest of us were in a state of collapse.
Isn't that marvellous? So you're all thinking, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yes, and it was my first Shakespeare. I said, well, if anything goes wrong, how do you make up a line of Shakespeare?
That's true, actually,
yes.
Because anything else you can just pop a bit of that in. And
yes.
Wow. Is there any part that you wished you'd have got or would have liked to have played that maybe didn't work out for you? Or, was there any sort of, when you look back and thought, if I'd have had that role, I would have been happy with it? Or...
Sometimes I've auditioned for a role and not got it,
Yeah.
and thought when I've seen it, oh, I think I could have done it better. I can't think specifically what at the moment,
Yeah.
but I don't have a longing for a certain part that I've never played. I don't think so. It's a difficult question.
Yeah, no, you see,
Yes.
I always find that, you know, I think we all have that, you know, when you watch something and if you didn't
Yes.
get it, you think, it's okay, but I might have done this.
Yes.
But I think that's just human nature, isn't it?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'd love to have been in the musical Follies. I think I could have enjoyed that because it's all older actors and
Yeah.
actresses, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that show. I'd love to have been in that.
The song I'm Still Here is a brilliant.
Wonderful.
I think it's
Wonderful.
you know,
Yes.
when he wrote that, I think he was saying to everybody,
Yes.
you can write me off.
That's
but,
right.
you know,
I'm still
I'm going to be here.
Yeah, yes. It's a great song, yes.
We have to also quickly touch on the fact that you were in another iconic show on TV, Coronation Street. Everybody
yes.
loves that show. What was it like going into that? Because that, I mean, again, a big cast that everybody knows.
It's always very difficult, and my friends too that have done the same thing will tell you, to go in with a small part for a few weeks or even a few days, and the cast has all been there for years.
Yeah.
I had a very happy experience doing it. It is a few years ago up in Manchester. Everybody was very friendly.
Yeah.
I remember it's a very difficult thing to be in a soap opera because you have to learn the part very quickly. You don't get the script till the week before. You have to know it so well that you mustn't be seen trying to remember your lines. You've got to act it.
Yeah.
And they do it so well, the people in soaps. I'm full of admiration. Ever since I was in it, I've watched it. I wouldn't miss it now. I think it's a great show.
But it's a gripping, you know, it is real
But
life,
I
isn't
do
it?
remember the first day I was on set in the corner shop, you know,
Yeah.
in Rita's shop. It wasn't Rita at that time. It was Maureen was, and our
Yeah.
mother. Do you remember?
Yeah,
They were running
Maud.
Maud, that's right. We're running the
I
shop.
loved Maud.
Maud and Maureen. And I went on and they said, all right, run through. Okay, you'll stand there and then you'll walk there. Okay, shoot. And they shot it. And they said, okay, on to the next scene. I said, not a long time to delve into character, is there? You've just got to do it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a difficult job, but it's very rewarding. I enjoyed it.
A couple quick more questions. Going to speak quickly about Stop the World, I Want to Get Off.
Yes.
Very talented Anthony Newley.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to meet him.
Yes.
I thought he was wonderful as a person. Just, I think almost, it's a funny phrase to say this, but over-talented. He could do everything.
Yes.
And, you know, there's a lot of people, you know,
Yes.
it's hard to pigeonhole somebody, you know, when you
Yes.
think about that.
Yes.
But that was a massive show.
Yeah.
And you were part of that. What was the whole surround of that like?
Well, it had been running a year when I took over from Anna Quayle. He and Tony went to do it on Broadway, and Tony Tanner and I took over in London.
Wow.
Leslie Brickus, the co-author, I became friendly and was friendly with for some years, but I wasn't friendly with I can't remember if he directed me into the show. I think he did. It was a marvellous part.
Yeah. And theatre at that point was buzzing, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because there were so many big
Yes.
new shows that we now see as, you know, iconic shows,
Yes,
but they
it's
were
a wonderful
starting
show.
out.
Very clever show. And one lovely story from that is that I was very proud of my career that I had never been off. And in those days, nowadays you have to take a holiday and give the understudy a chance, or you're always given a week or whatever it is.
Full stop.
But in those days, no. Like when I did the review from Amusement Only, I did it for 2 years without missing a show. 698 performances. Ron Moody and I were the only two who never missed a performance. And I was proud of that.
Yeah.
And I was doing Stop the World, and the set was like a circus, and you had to run down the steps in a blackout. And at the sides, they had the paint that you can see in the dark, but where I had to run, there were no things, and I missed a step and twisted my ankle very badly. And I said, I'm not going to miss a show. I went by taxi to a West End doctor and said, you've got to get me on tonight. So he said, okay, I'll come to the theatre and I'll inject you just before the show. so that you can do it.
We're mad, aren't we?
Absolutely mad, which he did. But before the end of the show, I was in such pain. And the understudy, who had understudied Anna Quayle, she'd done it. I said, I'm sorry. I'm afraid you're going to have to do it. I can't do it again. And in those days, no play, no pay. Nothing. If you weren't on stage, you got nothing.
Gosh.
I had a distant cousin who was a famous theatrical lawyer, David Jacobs. He said, I'll take up your case. He said, because it was their fault and they should pay you. I was off for a week, I think. And he took up the case, and it was to go to court. And he got a QC to come and plead my case. He said, oh, I'm so glad I'm doing this. I can go into court and say, poor Thelma Ruby, she couldn't stop the world because she had to get off.
It's a good line, though, isn't it?
It
Wow.
didn't go to court. That was Delfont. That was Bernard Delfont. And they did settle. They did pay me not only my salary, they even paid me some compensation thanks to my lawyer cousin.
What was he like, though? Because I know that a massive impresario, Bernard Delfont.
Yes, Bernard Delfont.
I met him
Again,
briefly with the big hair. He always had
Yes.
big buff on hair, didn't
Yes,
he?
with the famous brothers.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lou and Leslie. Yeah.
Lou and Leslie Gray.
Very
yes.
powerful.
Very powerful
trio.
family.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't really get to know the management. You don't, you know.
Yeah.
They don't really turn up much.
Yeah. As long as the money's coming in.
That's right.
So Ron Moody was another, to me, a vastly talented
Oh,
man.
he was brilliant.
You know, what was that like working with you? Was he friendly with you? You know, like you said,
Oh,
Norman
yes.
wasn't, but Ron was
yes.
chatty.
Oh,
and-
yes. He was very funny.
Yeah.
He used to make us laugh a lot. He would come on for the opening chorus. The audience is black. We're on a stage. And he could see the famous people, because everyone came to this show for amusement only. And he'd come off and say, Princess Margaret's in front tonight, or James Mason's in front tonight.
And he picked them out.
Yes, he could pick them out. And he was so funny in the show. He was brilliant. And I saw his one-man show afterwards. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
Did you ever
Yes.
get nervous, Thelma, when there were famous people in? You know, because
Yes,
I think it does.
Yes.
It gives you a different dynamic. Because
that's right.
I think it's actually
Yes.
worse because you're probably wondering if they're trying to plot to get your part. You know, if I'm honest. But
Yeah.
then you think,
Yes.
you know, and it's
Yes.
frightening, isn't it? I think.
I've had all these years, my first professional show was in 1944, so I go back a long way.
Yeah.
And I never quite got over being nervous. I'm nervous at auditions, I'm nervous on first nights, I'll be very nervous on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, but then
Doing my
but-
one-woman show at the age of 91.
Yeah, but
you
that
know,
must
but-
be nice because you know the people have come to see you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I
yes.
think there's a bit of a difference there
yes,
because when you're
yes.
doing a big ensemble piece or a film or whatever, and
That's
you
right.
turn the premiere, you're
Yes.
not quite sure.
That's
The
right.
critics pick out
That's
people,
true.
and you know. And
I'll try and think of that.
I have to ask you, you look fabulous. What is
you.
the secret for looking good? I mean, you obviously take care of yourself and, you know, what is the secret to a long life?
I've had a very blessed life. I've had a very happy life. I didn't marry till I was 45, but then I had 21 years of a wonderful, happy marriage. For 11 years, I lived in Israel. And when people said, why do you look so good? And I said, well, it's the oranges and the love of a good man. I can't say that anymore. I can only say that I do try and enjoy every life, and every day, I mean,
Yeah.
and appreciate that I'm here and I'm well, and that I have wonderful friends, and that I love life.
Yeah.
I guess that's why. And I also am not a worrier. I let things slide off me. I'm a bit Teflon-like that.
No, but that's probably a secret, isn't it? Because I think
Yes.
we are in a business that's stressful.
Yes.
You know, it can be stressful.
Yes.
And I think, you know, you have this feeling of you're never going to work again after
That's
the next
right.
thing and all of that business.
Yes.
I know that feeling with this show. And,
Yeah.
and I think you then,
Yeah.
I don't know if necessarily it's you, but it's other people impose that onto you. They say, oh, do you think you'll get anything else? And you say,
Yes.
will I?
Yeah, well, you never know if you will or not.
Yeah, yeah.
But my late husband used to call me Pollyanna because I always saw the rosy side of everything. You know, my
That's
glass
nice.
was always half full.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
I
that's
guess that's why I'm still enjoying life, thank goodness.
How would you, if somebody was to look back at your career in 50 years' time, and they're looking at, you know, your scrapbooks and your films and stuff like that, how would you want to be remembered as an actress? What's the, you know, if there was a point where you said, I'd like them to look at that period and think she did a good job, you know what I mean, or something like
Yes.
that. How would you foresee that?
Well, I think one of the best things about my career is that I've made a lot of people laugh. And I think that's how I'd like to be remembered, as someone who made people laugh.
Oh, that's nice. Thelma, do you know, you're a real tonic. It's been lovely
Thank
to
you.
talk
It's
to
been
you.
lovely
Your
to be
energy is
here.
fabulous. Fabulous.
I'm
Thank
so
you so
happy
much
to be here. Thank you very much
Thanks for being a
indeed,
guest today.
Neil.
It's lovely.
Lovely,
Thank
lovely
you.
to have met you. Thank you.